Hello, mortals! I am the Booktube Goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. If you've been watching me, you know I do this series of videos on other booktubers, usually bigger name booktubers, to see how they started, where they are now, maybe figure out how they got that way, to hopefully help you out and also to help me out. The underlying question is, why are these booktubers so popular? And I wanted to do today Ellias. I am subscribed to Ellias, but his videos don't come up on my feed very often. Thank you, YouTube. But I know he's friends with Reads with Cindy. And Reads with Cindy is what started this series off, and I really need to redo my video on her. But I am really curious about how Ellias started. I keep wanting to call him Elliot, and I know that's wrong, but I keep thinking of E.T., you know, and the finger phone home, Ellias. Maybe I just want to finger Elliot, or no. If you don't know who Ellias is, please check him out. I'll have a link below to his channel and to the videos we're going to look at. And while you're there, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Ellias, and then subscribe to me if you're not already. Okay, here we are at Ellias's channel. And I love his banner. I love that artwork. I wonder who he got to do it, or if he did it himself. Very attractive. And looking at his front page, his highlighted video is I got all the feels of all these books, 18K views. By the way, his channel is 94K large. Very close to 100K, and again, in booktube terms, this is one of the biggest. His recent uploads looks like 2.8K, which was 6 hours ago, so we'll look at that one in a bit. But then looks like 24, 40, 16, 23, 18. So maybe it looks like he averages 20, 25K, which with this many subscribers is really huge. I don't know how he's doing that, but great job. The other reason I wanted to look at Ellias, as you can tell from his thumbnails, is that he's an Asian man. And if you weren't aware, underneath all this grease paint, I am an Asian man. And there's not very many of us on BookTube, at least that I know of, at least none as successful as Ellias. So let's keep going and look at his videos. Okay, I am going to go ahead and right away jump to his earliest videos. And, okay, whoa, 5 years ago. Okay, his first video looks like it's a BookTube video 5 years ago, YA Mystery and Thriller Reads, which got 53K. 53K on your first video? So my guess is he may be a experienced booktuber or YouTuber, because the thumbnail, his first thumbnail looks pretty professional. Or probably more likely is he's hidden or privated some earlier videos for whatever reason, which is fine. A lot of people do that. But let's go ahead and take a look. It's 5 years ago. YA Mystery and Thriller Read.
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Brandon, and today I'm going to be doing book recommendations, specifically mystery thrillers. So, with these mystery...
Okay, real quick, I don't think he has this type of high energy videos in his later videos, so it's really interesting seeing this. And is he missing an arm on his glasses, huh? Okay, let's just keep going.
Thriller books, I mean, of course you can just, I don't know, for me anyways, I feel like they're in the mystery thriller genre, but if you feel like they're not in the mystery thriller genre, I don't know, what can you do? So I won't be going into too much detail about these books, mainly just basically...
The reason why I said that it feels like he's a more experienced booktuber, so you see how the sound goes, and then he freezes and the sound cuts, and he does these jump cuts that I wish I could do. But this strikes me as edited in a very traditional way for BookTube, especially, or YouTube, especially 5 years ago. Let's just keep watching.
Their overall plot and why you should read them. because I feel like for mystery thriller, it is always best not to know too much about them before you read them. Without further ado, let's get started.
True.
The first book I want to recommend to you is Dangerous Girls by Abigail Haas. Basically, all you need to know is about these group of friends. They go on vacay, to celebrate their senior status of graduating, okay? And one of them gets murdered, and you don't know who it is. And the girl who got murdered, her best friend, is framed.
You don't know who
this
got
girl
murdered?
who was framed needs to find out why she was framed and who the killer is before the killer strikes again. Sounds like your generic overall YA plot, okay? Boring? No. It is not like that at all. I can't really think of any good things to say without spoiling this book. If you want something so shocking that you'll never see coming, you can read this book. If you're watching this video and you're like, oh, that doesn't still give me an incentive to read this book, well, you know what? That's your problem then. You're lost if you're not going to read this awesome, shocking book. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. The next book I'm going to recommend to you guys is 172 Hours on the Moon by Johan Harstad. This book is also creepy as well as suspenseful. About this group of kids who win this prize, a trip to the moon.
I like the title. I mean, I like the cover. I pick books based on their cover, and that one looks pretty cool. So I may take a look out for that one. Then, man, those missing arm on its glasses is really kind of triggering me for some reason.
Moon. And on that moon,
shouldn't they be tilting?
Something terrifyingly scary up there. Let me just say that this book was downright creepy. The ending was so weird. It's just creepy. It's like if you watch those horror movies where astronauts go to the moon and then they find some alien life form there that's gonna kill them all. It's sort of like that, but it's not, okay? Sort of, but it's not. The next book I'm going to recommend to you guys is The Masked Truth by Kelly Armstrong.
Oh, Kelly Armstrong.
This book is about a group of troubled teenagers who are taken hostage by these group of men. But little do they know that these hostages that they've taken are mentally unstable, and shit goes down. Shit goes way down. A lot of people die. The ending of this book was really crazy. I mean, the middle part too. Everything about this book was really crazy. If you guys want something suspenseful, something that you did not completely expect, definitely read this book. I mean, all these books, of course, you do not completely expect. Otherwise, why would you read them? Mystery thriller, duh. I'm just trying my best here to recommend these books to you guys because I feel like they need to be read, and not a lot of people that I know have read them, so definitely give these books a try. The next book I'm going to recommend is Famous Last Words by...
Just real quick on the previous book, Kelly Armstrong is mostly known for, I believe, adult supernatural romance horror. You usually find her in the horror section. So I didn't know she did a YA thriller. Interesting. Okay, we're on Famous Last Words.
Katie Allender. This book was a surprising surprise. It's basically about a girl who moves to LA with her mom into her stepdad's house. She's on her own, she's figuring out all these murders that are happening, and ghosts. There are ghosts in this book. It's not like your typical, oh my gosh, who is the serial killer? Why is he killing all these people? What does he have to do with anything with me? I'm gonna go out of my way and find out who the serial killer is. No! The victims of the serial killer. These ghosts ask this girl to help them because I can't tell you why, but they ask her to help her, and stuff happens, and it's a really great book, and it's just so weird, it's just out of the ordinary, that it's just unique. If you want something fast, something sort of creepy, but it's almost like a Criminal Minds TV episode show mixed with supernatural. I think that's the way to put it. The next book I'm going to recommend is The Fixer by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Political thriller. Political thriller. If you guys like political thrillers, like The Winner's Curse, The Winner's Crime, The Winner's Kiss, basically the Winner trilogy, you should definitely read The Fixer because it is such a damn good book. Basically, The Fixer is about Tessa Kendrick and her older sister, who is known as The Fixer in Washington, D.C. Basically, she fixes the problems for these political, wealthier, rich people so that the public doesn't know. And as always, stuff happens, stuff leaks out, and murder happens. These big conspiracies explode out of nowhere, and soon you're just on the edge of your seat, on the edge of your toes, and you're just finding out like, oh my gosh, what the hell is happening? If you want what the hell is happening vibe, definitely read this book. It is so good. It's a political thriller. There aren't a lot of political thriller YAs, so I definitely recommend this book. You guys should definitely check it out.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. I think you can get an idea of what his first video is, at least the first video on his channel. Again, 5 years ago, high energy, really well cut or edited video with sort of the music, the stopping, freezes, and then restarting. I think that's pretty interesting. But then we jump. It looks like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he probably unlisted or privated some videos, because we jump, we go 5 years, then 4 years. 4 years ago, which is a year after what we just saw, the thumbnails look a little similar. I actually am having trouble with these thumbnails because of my eyesight. I find them hard to read with the words over the books. Except for this worst books. I can read that worst ever. But this was hard for me to read. This one's hard for me to read, spring reads. But I'm sure most of you have better eyesight than I do and are not having trouble with that. I just think that's interesting. So let's... Looks like he's left a bunch of videos from 4 years ago, looking a little more mature. I kind of want to jump to one of these 3 years ago videos. Okay, here is a mid-year book freakout tag. I think a lot of us have done those. So let's go ahead and check out the mid-year book freakout tag. Again, this was 3 years ago.
Hello, everybody. How's it going, guys? It's
still
been
high energy.
A good long while since I have come back with another video. It's been like, what, almost 4 weeks now. In that span of time, I was taking a little short time away from YouTube in general, and just some time for myself. It was really nice. But now that I'm back, I thought, what better way to start off than doing the mid-year book freakout tag. My second time doing this tag. I did this tag last year. This tag was created by Ellie and Shemi. I'll leave their links down below. Without any further ado, let's get started, because there are actually some pretty interesting books I've read this past year. I honestly can't believe it's July already. I just have this mentality thinking that July is the middle of the year. And
now I notice there's no music, but there's still that editing style. And he still has that high energy. So, very interesting.
Actually, it's June that marks the halfway mark of the year. You know, at this point, nobody should be surprised that I'm always late to these type of things. Always. Whether it be like a book haul or a wrap-up, you know, you can bet that wrap-up being 2 months later than the actual date that I read those books. Enough rambling on. We are going to get started to the questions. There are 15 questions. Alright, question number 1. Best book you've read so far in 2018. So this book, hands down, will have to go to The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. This book was freaking phenomenal. It took me by surprise, and I loved everything about it. This book is about a woman who has agoraphobia. She basically lives in her house all the time, and you know, to pass the time and stuff, she spies on the neighbors, and these new neighbors move in next door, and she sees something that she isn't supposed to see one night, and something bad happens, and yeah, as you can see, bad stuff goes down from there. But honestly, it is shocking bad stuff. So it's just so good. Every time people are like, oh, what are your favorite thrillers, I'm like, this one. You guys should read this. And this book is also being made into a movie as well. That's coming out, I believe, next year. And the main character is being played by Amy Adams and Julianne Moore. She's also going to be playing a character in this book. And I'm so excited because those are the two actresses that I actually,
I should look it up.
So I'm so excited to see the adaptation of this. And honestly, if you guys haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. It was so gripping and fast-paced. One of my faves of 2018 so far. Question number 2 is best sequel you've read so far in 2018. Okay, so, fun fact, I haven't even touched or reached the halfway mark of my Goodreads challenge. This year I set it to 50 books. I believe I'm at the 17 books, something like that. And none of the books are direct sequels to any other books I've read so far this year. So instead, I'm going to be doing a different book written by the same author. What better genre to pick that off than mystery thrillers? Because honestly, so many authors usually write different, books in the same genre. So I'm just going to do that because I honestly haven't read a single book that is a direct sequel to the books I've read. I already said this. Anyway, so the best sequel, or you can say the best book I read from the same author this year, and I just finished it, is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. Riley Sager is also the author of Final Girls, which I absolutely loved and I read last year.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking now, maybe why I don't watch his videos that often is we seem to have different tastes in books, because I'm not really a thriller mystery person, and he seems to really love them. But I also think it's interesting that we read, it sounds like we read about the same amount of books, because usually I pick 50 books on Goodreads, and I think I didn't make it last year. I think I only read 49 books. So I think that's interesting that our reading speed may be similar.
And Stephen King blurbed it saying the first great thriller of 2017. And this one took me by surprise just because I really liked how inventive it was. It took like this Horace Lasser trope of the final girl and just played around with it, and I absolutely loved it. So in this one, this is the book of the month, not sponsored. And I picked this as my pick for this month, and when it got to me, I immediately picked it up. And I read it in like basically a single night, and I was just shook because his writing style just vastly improved, I think, from Final Girls, and the story in itself, I think, is a little bit better and better executed. This book is basically about a woman who 15 years ago is at this camp. Her bunkmates, cabin mates or whatever, they one day just disappeared. They went out of the cabin and disappeared into thin air. Nobody knows what happened to them, or nobody could find them. And so 15 years later, she's now this like famous artist. So the owner of the camp asks the main character to come back to this camp called Camp Nightingale because she's going to reopen it, and she wants her to, you know, be there and like teach them how to paint and stuff. So the main character of course says yes, otherwise we wouldn't have a mystery thriller. If the main character said yes, nothing would have happened. So thank God she said yes, because now she's going back to this camp and maybe hopefully get a second chance at finding out exactly what happened to those missing girls. Unfortunately for her, sadly, somebody or something wants the past to stay buried. Honestly, this was really good. Like, I had felt so many, like, camp vibes from this, like, from other horror movies, like Friday the 13th-ish kind of vibes. I honestly can't wait for more people to read about this so I can talk about it more, just because this book just came out. I'm pretty sure this is the best book I have read from a different author this year. Question number 3 is new release you haven't read yet, but you really want to. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop it there. I once again am impressed by his editing. He saw those, like, zoom ins and zoom outs, and it has a very punchy style that I know is really popular with YouTube. And he also talks pretty fast, and I have a big problem trying to talk fast, because when I do, I usually start stumbling over my words and getting all tied up. But I think YouTube seems to reward, or the audiences seem to enjoy when people have a fast, brisk talk. As an extreme example, look at Jesse the Reader. Okay, that was 3 years ago. I am just going to jump ahead to the latest video. Again, this was just 6 hours ago, most anticipated books of 2022. And look at his hair. It's really, well, you'll see. You'll see. Okay, here we go. The most anticipated books of 2022, the most recent video, at least for me at the time I'm filming this. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video.
Sponsorship!
Hello everyone. How's it going?
Okay, real quick. I'm always happy to see booktubers getting sponsorships because we are such a small niche community. If you're not someone like Dominic Noble, you don't usually see regular sponsorships. Well done, Ellias. Love seeing that. And just in this first few seconds, you can see that his demeanor has changed a lot. And I will say real quick, it does look like he's using chapters in his videos now. So the middle one's a huge chapter. Okay, it goes intro, BetterHelp, books, then the wrap-up ending. And I believe I heard a little bit of background music, so it looks like he's doing music once again on his background.
My name is Ellias, and in today's video, I'll be talking about my most anticipated reads of the books I want to read in 2022. This year, I wanted to make things a little bit different compared to my last most anticipated reads video of 2021, because in that video, I think I read like 5 out of the 15 books I listed. So this year, I only cracked down the top books I truly want to read in 2022. Granted, there will be other books I will find out later down the line, but we'll get there when it gets to that point. Another factor that I also wanted to bring up with this video is that I will not be including any sequels to any of the books
or in the series that I want to read. Just because it's on my radar already, I can list like 3 books at the top of my head, the final and third book in the Dreamer trilogy, and some of my favorite adult paranormal authors, Anne Bishop and Patricia Briggs.
Oh, I love Anne Bishop.
Sequels this year, but for now, I'm just going to keep the books on this list as standalones or newly discovered. So 2022, I am determining and striving to make this year my best reading year yet of reading and completing 100 books while also staying mentally healthy and sane at that. So before we get further into the video, a message from today's video.
Okay, I'm going to skip his sponsorship portion. Again, these videos will be linked down below if you want to go back and see it. And I do think it's interesting. He's doubled his Goodread goals from 3 years ago. It was 50 books. Now it's 100 books. Me, it's still 50. And I wonder if he's a full-time booktuber. I don't know. But maybe he just has more time to read. I don't know. But let's go ahead and continue.
So if you see me looking down at any point in the video, it's because I'll be looking at my laptop at all the releases and publication dates for these books. So I'll be going through these books in publication order and not by genre. All right, before we get any further, I also want to preface by saying that if you hear any weird background noises, it's that they're doing construction work and it's pretty much inevitable to ignore. So apologies for that. First one up being To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara. So it goes without saying, not much surprise here because I absolutely loved and was devastated and heartbroken by A Little Life, as many of you were, I'm sure, as well. So this will be my second read from this author, and my expectations are somewhat hesitant because I'm not expecting this book to be on par as A Little Life. Rather, I'm expecting it to be extremely different. I'm getting like sort of a dystopian and Cloud Atlas vibes, if you get what I mean. This one primarily follows 3 distinct POVs, 3 different stories, and how they sort of all interconnect with each other. The only reason why I'm picking this one up is because it's by Hanya Yanagihara, solely based on the author and what she did to me with A Little Life. I have not yet read her first book. I believe it's called The People in the Trees. I do plan on reading that, but you can also expect a reading vlog here for this big bad boy. I think this is like 730 pages. This one is also out already by the time this video is up. This one came out in the US on January 11th, and my copy is already on its way. So the next book I want to read is a thriller, and this one is The Night Shift by Alex Finlay. This one comes out on March 1st. I'm really interested in this one because it sounds like it has a really unique premise to it. I have never read from the author before, but it takes place in 1999 and subsequent years later. So it mainly follows the event where this Blockbuster video store is attacked where 4 teens are killed and one of them escapes. And then 15 years later at an ice cream store, 4 teens are killed while one of them makes it out alive. And so in the aftermath, we follow these 3 characters and how their lives intersect. The survivor of the Blockbuster massacre, the brother of the original suspect who's convinced the police have it wrong, and an FBI agent who's determined to solve both cases. It says that all 3 lives will be forever changed and not everyone will make it out alive. So that's pretty much all I know about this, and I'm very excited to see where this one goes. So the next book coming out in March 15th, is 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. So Peter Swanson, to me, I think his books have been at a declining rate. I have not really enjoyed his subsequent releases.
I was going to say, I wonder if his tastes have changed, if he's reading more speculative fiction, science fiction, fantasy, horror. But I'm getting the sense that his first love is sort of that mystery thriller genre or type of book, which is fine. And if you're into that type of book, make sure you subscribe to Ellias if you're not already.
As much as I did with the first couple of books that I read from him. Still by far, my first top pick from him will be The Kind Worth Killing. That one is just top tier thriller, and nothing he has written so far has come close yet. This one does sound pretty simple, but also intriguing as well. So the story follows 9 strangers who receive a cryptic list with their names on it, and then they begin to die in highly unusual circumstances. So that is pretty much all I know and want to know regarding this book and just thrillers in general. I just want to know very little, especially about the story going in. Here's to hoping that this will be another fantastic read from Peter Swanson. So moving on into April 5th to be.
So that sounds like an Agatha Christie plot. And difference between thrillers and mysteries. I've never really heard a good explanation, but there you go.
Exact is Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. This cover is just mwah, chef's kiss. One of my favorite covers of 2022 for sure. So this one sounds fantastic. I am so excited to read this because it's supposedly Ocean's 11 meets The Farewell. And I am absolutely here for this comic.
Okay, I just wanted to check out the cover since he pointed it out. It's not my favorite type of cover. I do like the sort of retro font at an angle. I like the blue-toned person with and the only thing that's not blue-tone are the sunglasses, which are reflective gold, but not really my favorite type of cover. But Ellias likes it, and that's what matters.
So this one follows a senior college student at Harvard, Will Chen, who goes out to recruit 4 other college students in helping him steal back 5 priceless Chinese artifacts looted from Beijing centuries ago. I don't know why, but this is the type of book and premise where I can see being marketed as YA, but I am extremely happy that it is adults. So these 5 college students, if they succeed, they earn $50 million and a chance to make history. But if they fail, it would not just mean the loss of everything they dreamed of for themselves, but yet another thwarted attempt to take back what colonialism has stolen. Preach it, baby. I'm here for it. I am extremely pumped for this book, and April 5th can't come any sooner. So moving on onto the month of May 3rd to be exact, we have The Book of Night by Holly Black. So I am interested in reading this because of 2 things.
Okay, pausing again just to talk about the last book, The Portrait of a Thief. At least he didn't say new adult, because you know my opinion of young adult. Not crazy of that. I don't like it being called a genre for sure, because I don't think it's a genre. I think it's a marketing category. But then there's some people that say there is a category or genre called new adult, where all the main characters are just either starting college or in college or just getting out of college, the early 20s. And it just makes me so frustrated, because it sounds like, are we really going to classify novels by the age brackets of the main characters? So there's like a middle-aged category or a old adult or a mature. It's crazy. Young adult, I'll deal with. New adult, no thank you. Okay, Holly Black. Okay, so this is finally, I'm assuming, going to be a fantasy because of Holly Black, my favorite author. Let's see.
Things. 1, Holly Black. Duh. 2, adult fantasy. That's pretty much it. Like, I don't even need to know what this book is about. I just know that for my enjoyment of what I have read from her, The Cruel Prince, I'm extremely curious and intrigued and excited to see what she'll bring and come up with in this new adult fantasy series. And I am getting some semblance of Shadowhunter vibes. Aside from her like fairy series, The Cruel Prince and the Spiderwick Chronicles, those are the only books that I have read from her. I have not read any of the Shadowhunter books aside from the first one, The Mortal Instruments, and I was not a big fan, honestly. But that was like years ago. This will be published by Tor Books, who are also publishing a plethora of the books on this list. I don't know, Tor, man, they just hit different. They're like literally one of my favorite book publishing companies, just because
mine too, actually.
It feels like an art house vibe to them. They feel like A24 films, if you know what I mean, in the film industry. I feel like that's what it is for Tor. I just get that cool art house. We're not like other girl vibes from Tor. And that's a good thing, because I feel like a lot of the books that they publish are just, I don't know, unconventional, not basic or simple. Not to bash other book publishing companies, but I don't know, Tor just hits different. All right, so moving on.
Now, I remember Tor growing up myself as having just specializing in fantasy and science fiction, but it was Tor, Lesser Del Rey, or the Delaware Print, Bantam, Bane. I said Del Rey. I mean, there's just certain imprints or publishers where I see it on the spine and I know, oh, they're going to have good speculative fiction.
On into June 21st, we have another book from Tor. I'm telling you, Tor, they keep on feeding us. This one sounds too good to be true. This one is A Taste of Gold and Iron by Alexandra Rowland. All I'm going to give you are breadcrumbs, okay? But these are delicious breadcrumbs that will literally feed you for the whole year. This one is a queer adult fantasy about a prince who falls in love with his bodyguard. That's all. That's pretty much all I wanted to know. I literally saw the cover of this book on Twitter, so I can thank Twitter for that. Thank God, finally, hopefully it'll be good, because, I mean, I have faith. It's Tor, it's adult, it's fantasy, it's queer, and it does have some of my favorite tropes. We have the cool Cinnabon prince and the cool, arrogant bodyguard. Enemies to lovers here, which I am totally here for, and I can expect this summer to be simmering and steaming hot. So,
why is bodyguard and prince enemies to lover? Or maybe he read something that I didn't catch. My only problem with this is if it's going to be if the emphasis is on the romance or the fantasy. If this was a fantasy plot, I'd be into it. If this is a romance plot, I probably would not be into it. There's just something about romances where I just don't feel the plot points. I don't get the rhythm of the story. It feels like nothing's happening, which is why I try to stay away from romances, because I'm the wrong person for that book. I'm not the audience. I do love gay fantasies. Of course, my favorite is Mercedes Lackey's Harold Mage trilogy, with Daniel as the gay Harold Mage that is the center point of the story. Also, Lynn Fluelling has a big series of gay fantasy books that aren't bad. Favorite still is The Herald Mage.
Here for it. So moving on into July. July 7th, we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Alright, so Riley Sager, we are going to pretend that Survive the Night did not exist, and this is your long-awaited comeback from the previous book that was not Survive the Night. Okay, this will be the chance to redeem yourself, but I am also really kind of hesitant and cautious going into this one, just because it does sound really, really simple and basic. It really sounds like your straightforward thriller, and that's not a bad thing, but coming from this man who has written some of my favorite thrillers that I have read, I do have some expectations going in. But we'll see. It's about a recently widowed actress who wants to escape the streak of bad press and moves into her family lake house in Vermont. So armed with a pair of binoculars and several bottles of liquor, we have our main unreliable character, Casey. We love to see it. So what do you know? She plays Peeping Tom with this new glamorous couple across the lake at this new hot couple, and she actually strikes a budding friendship with the female character. However, to her shock, the female character goes missing and her husband seems really suspicious. Obviously, Casey finds out that not all is as seems and that looks can be deceiving. So there you have it. Honestly, if it weren't for Riley Sager's name attached to this book, I probably wouldn't even be interested in the first place in picking this one up, just because it sounds like—
I don't know who that is, Riley Sager.
Crossing my fingers, here's to hoping that
I'm not into
this will
thrillers.
subvert my expectations and be—
It's offset.
So the next book, also coming out in July 12th, is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher.
Ooh.
Again, we have another book published by Tor, and this one is a retelling of the fall of the House of Usher.
Now, this is the type of cover that I'd be like, "Ooh, this is interesting." It's bones. It looks so creepy. The rabbit, flesh, getting strong horror vibes. I would pick this one up probably based on the cover.
Listen, I grew up reading stories from Edgar Allan Poe, and The Fall of the House of Usher is most memorable to me. So this book and this cover, absolutely stunning. This cover is giving me weird vibes, but I'm absolutely here for it because, you know, in 2022, weird vibes, but we're all here for it. So, can't really say too much more about this book other than the fact that, again, I'm really excited to read it. Alright, so the last 3 books on this list all coincidentally come out on the same exact day in August. So on August 23rd, first up, we have Daphne by Josh Bellerman. So now we have here another horror supernatural slasher book following a female basketball team. So the plot doesn't give away too much, but it follows this myth, this legend at their local school where if you think about this girl named Daphne, you mysteriously disappear or die under these circumstances. And so when her teammates begin to vanish one by one, she has to find out what the fuck is happening and the truth behind the legend before the summer of her lifetime becomes the last summer of her life. And so that's pretty much it, but it does sound promising. Moving on. Alright, so the next book, coming out on August 23rd, we have another standalone from my thriller queen Karen Slaughter, Girl Forgotten. It doesn't even have a cover or a blurb yet, but that's besides the point. Anything that this woman will write, I will read. That's a given. I don't even know what this book is about, and
Weird cover. It looks like a self-help book. It doesn't look like a fiction book. Very strange.
I don't even care. I honestly still need to go back and read her backlist titles, and that is something that I'm hoping to accomplish this year as well. Alright, so last and not least, coming out on August 23rd, we have Babel, or An Arcane History of the Oxford Translators' Revolution. All I know about this book is that it follows this character who is brought to London by this mysterious professor where he trains for years in Latin, Ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation to enroll at Oxford's University prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, aka Babel. I've also heard this book being pronounced as Babel, which I think is just really cute because it sounds like babe. I don't know, that didn't really make any sense. But personally for me, I'm just gonna call it Babel. So Babel is the world center of translation and more importantly of silver working, which is, you know, basically the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation through enchanted silver bars to a magical effect. I have no idea what that means, but it has also mean that it has made the British Empire unparalleled in power, and Babel's research in foreign languages serves the Empire's quest to colonize everything it encounters. Yeah, sounds about right. Anyways, our main character, Robin, is recruited by this shadowy Herm Society, an organization dedicated to sabotaging the silver working that supports imperial expansion. Babel, in of itself, is a thematic response to the secret history and a tonal response to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell grapples with student revolutions, colonial resistance, and the use of translation as a tool of empire. So, it does sound—
Now, I have read The Poppy Wars, which was one of my favorite fantasy reads of, I think I finished it last year. And I know it's not for everyone because it's an anti-hero story. I think it's an anti-hero story. So you're really not meant to like the hero, even if you sympathize with that person every so often. Ultimately, it's usually a tragic story. And I know a lot of people really did not like The Poppy Wars. But I'm here for this new novel.
Cover instead of the US. I don't know, something about the font I'm just not a fan of. Also, this book is written by R.F. Kuang, and fun fact, I've actually read one of her books before, The Poppy War, and contrast to popular belief, I actually did not like this book as much as I thought I would, which was sort of a surprise to me because I think I read this just as it was rising in the cusp of its peak before everyone started talking about it. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was good. I just thought it wasn't enough to warrant my interest in reading the other 2 books. I like the writing style, I just couldn't care for the characters or the story in general. I know that this book,
it's really hard to connect with a character that's you're kind of like not meant to like. So that might have been his issue. I don't know. This may not have been the book for him, but I wonder what he would think of Queen of the Conquered by Case and Calendar, who had a super unlikable main character.
has a huge fan base and that it's beloved by many. I personally thought it wasn't that great, and that this book, Babel, is her venture into sort of like a non-traditional fantasy format. Alright, so that is pretty much it. My top 11 books I want to read in 2022 so far.
Okay, like I said, I'll have links to the full videos down below, and please check out his channel. I think it's really interesting to see his progression. If you saw that first video from 5 years ago, then 3 years, then today. The biggest change has been his demeanor, I think. I think he started like as a traditional YouTuber and really studied the jump cuts and the sound editing and that type of thing and the thumbnails. And it worked for him because he's grown his channel so much. But if you jump to his recent videos today, man, his demeanor is so much more relaxed. I hope he's having more fun doing these videos. And obviously he's matured not only as a booktuber YouTuber, but as a person, because I don't like to guess people's ages, but I'm assuming that the 5 years ago video, he was maybe in a different stage of life than where he is. And I'm so curious if he's like a full-time booktuber, because if he's getting sponsorships and he has this subscriber count, I think that would be amazing. He's almost at 100K. So if you're not subscribed to him, go ahead and subscribe to him. Let's try to get him to 100K. I think right now people probably watch him because they feel comfortable with him. He's built up his core audience. So let me know in the comments whether or not you follow Ellias, and let me know if you want me to do a reaction to someone else, who that someone should be. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.